life, every day, late at night, not okay. All I want, and I pray, all I need are some better days.
Hello, everybody. Keith Engle for Let's Talk New York Sports. Normally joined here by Dan Harris, as you know. Dan's been a little laid up with some medical issues, and we continue to wish Dan well, and I hope you guys will send him a little note when you have a minute, because I know Dan appreciates to hear from all his fans, and he's got them. I'll tell you what, if there's a guy who needs the have people behind him, he's got them, and I'm glad you guys are there for Dan, and I hope you'll continue to keep in your thoughts and prayers and send him a note, because Dan likes to hear from you guys. He's built quite a community here, and I'm happy to do my little part, especially keeping this show going in Dan's absence. So I go solo. We talk about everything New York sports. We'll get into the Jets. The Giants got a big playoff game this weekend against Minnesota. I'll continue to defend Daniel Jones, even though I hate the Giants, as we know, and the Jets. We'll talk Buffalo and New England. Buffalo with a big home game against Miami. We'll talk a little bit about that game with New England last week and the whole emotional lift that they got from the Hamlin issue, and whether that will continue that momentum. We'll talk some Knicks and Nets. The worst for the Mets, or for the Nets, excuse me, is they played some good basketball, and we said that they would really get hurt if Durant got out, and we saw that last night. They got blown out of the building last night by the Celtics, I believe. We'll take a look at that. We'll talk some Yankees and Mets. Not a lot going on there other than turning down Bauer. A little bit of news on the coaching front for the Mets, and we'll talk a little of that. And we'll dive in, if we have some time, to some college basketball. Take a look at some of the teams and how they're faring on the local level here in New York and the surrounding areas. So if you guys have topics you want to talk about, please jump in and post them. You feel free to post your comments. All things New York, guys, and surrounding. We get into the Patriots. We get into little UConn basketball. It's all the New York area to me. Don't tell people in New England that they're New York area, but they probably wouldn't like it. Let's start with the Jets. The Jets end their season last week with an ugly 11-6 loss to the Dolphins. Victory by the Dolphins would have kept the Patriots alive after losing to Buffalo, but would have got Pittsburgh in as Pittsburgh beat Cleveland. But the Jets couldn't beat Skylar Thompson and the pathetic Miami offense last week. It was 11-6 score. I believe they might have taken a safety at the end of the game. I don't remember how we got to 11. But Jets led by Joe Flacco after Mike White was ruled out. Zach Wilson saga continues after he was inactive again the week before. Activated and didn't play. I said, after the Zach Wilson issue, after the Patriot game 2 months ago, I want to say it was 2 months ago. It certainly feels like it. When they scored, he threw for 77 yards. They scored 3 points, and they lost on a punt return. And he was asked about, not whether he felt he let the defense down. And he said no. And I said after that, he lost that team. You had Garrett Wilson wearing Mike White. I love Mike White T-shirts. You have a split locker room at best, maybe even worse. Zach Wilson can't be the quarterback here, and I've been a big supporter of Zach Wilson for a long time, that the Mets needed to give him some time. Hasn't worked out. The Jets are going to have to start over at quarterback. Woody Johnson has said, owner Woody Johnson has said he'll go out and spend money on a free agent, but I'm not sure there's a free agent you can bring in here that's really going to help this team. Listen, Derek Carr has got the same number of playoff wins as Zach Wilson. You could bring Jimmy G in here, maybe. Geno Smith's a free agent. You're going to want to bring Geno back for Geno too? I don't know what you do, but this team, here's the thing that Jet fans have to remember. This team has improved pretty much in every facet of the game except the quarterback position. So there is some hope here. They finished 7-10. Played some good football at times this year. Losing Bryce Hall really hurt this team. I think they were 6-2 when he went down, and it hurt the team and hurt the play of the quarterbacks because they lost their running game. Michael Carter was, a decent. He's a decent player, but he's not a great player, and that really hurt the Jets losing Bryce Hall. So they got to go out and fix this quarterback situation. I think LaFleur was let go as the offensive coordinator. The Jets are starting over there. I think he threw himself and the head coach under the bus by admitting they should have sat Zach Wilson last year. So what, and it's also possible that, maybe that led to his firing. It's possible that Woody Johnson gave Robert Saleh an ultimatum and said, I want to have you back, Robert, but got to make some changes. And I'm not a big fan of that. When Aaron Boone fired all his coaches 2 years ago, I flipped out about it. And the Mets are spinning this. Robert Saleh said he wasn't pushed to make this move. We'll see if that's true or not. And the Jets have some interest in Todd Monken from Georgia, who's been there a few years now and is a great college coordinator. Not sure if that'll translate, but why wouldn't it? Now, the downside there is if somebody like Jim Harbaugh at Michigan gets a job in the pros, Monken's probably going to get considered as the Michigan head coach, which is probably, there's Scott again. Hey, Scott, how are you, buddy? Who's the quarterback to lead the Jets in 2020? Listen, if I was making a decision here, who would I bring in here to be the quarterback? Let me take a look at who's going to be. I got to see who's going to be free agent quarterbacks. Let me look at the list in entirety here, Scott. I'm not a big Derek Carr fan, so I don't see it being Derek Carr. I really don't. If I was the Jets, and I don't think Baltimore is going to do this. I think Baltimore is probably going to franchise Lamar Jackson. But I think I would take a hard look at seeing what it would take to get Lamar Jackson here. Listen, not a huge fan of that type of quarterback. He's a little different than Josh Allen, but he's dynamic. And with the players that are around him and Wilson and Moore, you get Bryce Hall back, that offense with Lamar Jackson would be dynamic. Now, it's not going to be cheap to get him. Let's look at some of the top free agents and we'll look at their chances. Tom Brady. If Tom Brady came here, I think my head might explode. I don't see that happening. Baker Mayfield, not a good run with Carolina this year. Had a couple of moments with the Rams. I don't see him being the answer. Jimmy G, possible. Jimmy G is not going to give you lights out performances, but Jimmy G will give you steady hand at quarterback and probably allow this team to win 10 games next year and maybe make the playoffs. Teddy Bridgewater, no. Daniel Jones, interesting. If the Giants won't pay Daniel Jones, will the Jets? That'd be an interesting bidding war, wouldn't it? And then you get into the Case Keenums of the world, Jacoby Brissett, no. Geno Smith, I don't think the Jets want to go back there. He had a good year this year. I don't know if it's sustainable. Taylor Henneke, I like. Andy Dalton, no. Lamar Jackson. You know, Lamar Jackson's base salary this year is $2.3 million. No wonder he's upset with the Ravens. So if you ask me to make a choice of those guys, I'll tell you what I would do. I'd go out and get Daniel Jones, number one. Number two, find out about Lamar Jackson. Number three, bring Jimmy G in here and then maybe draft another quarterback next year. I knew what you meant, Scott. Because I can't go back in time. If I had a time machine, I would win so many bets. But I don't. I do think Jimmy G is going to get some play in New York and some play in some other places as well. It's going to depend on his health. Jimmy G's had a hard time staying healthy, man. The shoulder, the ankle. But he's a productive quarterback. He keeps you in the games. I'm not sure if Jimmy G is a guy to take you to the promised land. But like I said, I think he could win 10 games with this team, and I think he would be a good stopgap until you can find your way back to get another franchise quarterback. Nah, I'm not a big fan of Minshew. I mean, he's a nice guy to have on your team as a backup. So if you want to bring him in here as a backup and a change of pace kind of quarterback, him and Jimmy G might be a good combination to have in, right? Gardner Minshew can do a lot of things Jimmy G can't do. But to bring Gardner Minshew in here to be a starter for 17 games, sorry. No, I don't think I'd do it. I'd be more like, if you're talking about backup quarterbacks, I'd be more likely to go to the Teddy Bridgewater, who was here once, wasn't he? He was with the Jets a couple of years ago, wasn't he? If you're looking at straight backups, I'd be more comfortable going after a Bridgewater than I would Minshew. As we mentioned, LaFleur gets fired. We'll find out about whether they can bring in Todd Monken. Maybe they're going to have an interesting competition for offensive coordinators, as the Patriots are looking for an offensive coordinator. Bill O'Brien, Kingsbury, those names are getting thrown around already for the Patriots job, people that Belichick has already worked with. I'm sure the Jets will be interested in talking to the same people. So we'll come back to the Jets if we have to, but I want to move on to the Giants. Giants finished 9-7-1. Could have easily finished 10-6 if they decided to play their starters last week. They didn't. They rested them. The guys that played last week certainly played hard. Game meant nothing to the Giants, so they'll go into the playoffs against the Vikings at the Vikings, where they lost on a 61-yard field goal just a few weeks back. I think the Giants have a very good chance of beating this team on Sunday. Kirk Cousins doesn't come up big in these moments for the Vikings. The Giants with Daniel Jones, you're going to see a heavy dose of Saquon Barkley, I think, this weekend. I do think you can throw the ball down the field. So if you can get Saquon started and you can get the ball play action and get the ball down the field, I think you can beat the Vikings secondary. And I think Daniel Jones can get that done if his lack of weapons doesn't derail him. What Daniel Jones has done with this Giant team this year is nothing short of remarkable in my mind. For the guys like the Mad New Yorker who want to tell me, oh, it's all Saquon Barkley. No. Daniel Jones has become a leader. You see the way he carries himself on this team, and you see a guy who has matured and developed the way it has historically taken quarterbacks time to mature in this league and become productive, mature players. You know, the guy, yes, because they pay guys so much money, quarterbacks play right away. But I'm not so sure. Look at some of the guys who started right away and were, making big money right away out of the draft. The Kyler Murrays, Baker Mayfield. I'm trying to think of some other guys off the top of my head. Just to throw a couple. I mean, how many of those guys would you take over Daniel Jones today? Not Daniel Jones' fault he got drafted 6th in the draft. Richie James, listen, Richie James has had some good games. And you're right, they do struggle in the slot, and Minnesota struggles in the secondary in general. In my mind, they overcome some of it with their pass rush when the pass rush is there. They did that against the Patriots in the regular season. But the Giants, listen, I can't get over my head the Vikings giving up, 32 points to the Colts to start the game. I know they came back and won, but how many teams in football can you come back 32-0 on? No, you can't. 33? Can't remember the score. It doesn't matter. I think Saquon has a big game or a big enough game to let the Giants do some play action, keep the Vikings on their heels. And I picked the Giants to win this game. 24-22. Last second field goal, Giants move on, and that'll be the end of the season, most likely. I like the 49ers to get to the Super Bowl from the NFC. On the other side of the league, Buffalo will play Miami. Sorry, I thought I saw a comment there. Buffalo will play Miami after beating the Patriots last week. Lots of emotion in the stadium, obviously with the Damar Hamlin situation. We're so thankful that he is doing well. In fact, he went home from the hospital yesterday after moving to Buffalo Hospital early in the week. You could see the emotion in the crowd. You could see the emotion with the team. And when they ran the opening kickoff back, I would have thought the Patriots were going to get blown right out of the building. Now, they managed to stay alive, but the same thing. So I'm talking about the Patriots and the Bills pretty much in the same breath here. We'll get the Patriots out of the way. I guess I'll have some more comments on them after this, but they managed to hold, serve for a while, and Mac Jones played well till the second half when he threw 2 end zone interceptions. They had another kick return for a touchdown. Buffalo wins handily, I think 35-23. Buffalo's going into the playoffs with a lot of emotion still, and there's a much better team than Miami besides. Tua's out. Tua's maybe done forever. Teddy Bridgewater may be the quarterback this week, but I don't think Miami's going to be able to even stay in this game. I think Buffalo wins this game easy. I think it's a 27-7, 30-7, 35-10 game. Buffalo's defense, I think, will step up against, again, a mediocre Miami offense with the issues that they have at quarterback. And I think Buffalo will win this game easy. And I wonder if you'll see some kind of appearance from Damar Hamlin in Buffalo this weekend, 1:00 Sunday, whether it be by video or other. I think it'll be very interesting to see that. I think Buffalo just has too much. Now, I don't think Buffalo is going to be able to carry that emotion through to the second round. And again, I'm pretty sure if I remember the matchups right, if Cincinnati beats Baltimore, which I fully expect them to do, I think Cincinnati and Buffalo will meet up in the second round, and the game that didn't get played 3 weeks ago will get played, or 2 or 3 weeks ago will get played. And I think the Bengals will beat them. I think the Bengals are better. We did find out also that a Buffalo-Kansas City championship game would be played in Atlanta after the league asked about 6 different places who turned them down, I think, for the to be able to play the AFC championship game there if they need a neutral field. And I'll tell you again that I think the NFL botched this terribly. They're lucky it didn't turn out worse. They had a rule on the books. At the end of the day, winning percentage takes precedent over everything. So if a game gets canceled for any reason, or there were ties. You used to have lots of ties before overtime. winning percentage would take precedent. You had a rule that would have made this pretty simple, but they had to get wise, and they're lucky it didn't blow up in their face worse. And you penalize Cincinnati, who's going to be ticked off about it. No good deed goes unpunished. They are the poster child for this. They're going to have to go to Buffalo and play next week, most likely. And I think they're going to go there angry. It's on the Bengals. It's on to the Bengals. Listen, I love it that you can quote Bill Belichick. It's on to Cincinnati, but, that's just a technicality. Let's see how well you know your football. After what game? It's hard for me to give you the year. I'll tell you who. I know they played on a Monday night, and tell me the team they played and the circumstances that brought on this comment. A little trivia question there for you, Scott. Yeah, there you go. Great. Scott, I'm so glad you started following me here. I think you and I have spoken other times, but I'm of the same mind of you. I said this this morning, and I'll certainly be saying it on all my shows here this weekend. I do see the Bengals and 49ers in a rematch, and I think it'll be a great game. The 49ers playoff hopes, not to get off the topic of New York sports, I think their chances hinge on Deebo Samuel, because he is such a great weapon, and to keep Brock Purdy from making the big mistake, I think they need to keep throwing the ball to the running backs. Him and McCaffrey are going to be huge for the 49ers in this offense, and the defense is really good. So that's just what I see there. So good call. We're on the same page here, you and I. And I like Buffalo, as I said, in a blowout against Miami. So, as you said, on to Cincinnati. A little bit on New England. Bill Belichick, interestingly enough, on Monday, and we do talk, I know this is Talking New York Sports, but we do add Dan Harris when we started doing this show. Oh, my gosh. Feels like 2 years ago, I think. We did add in, he did graciously add in the Patriots, because he knows that's my team when it comes to football. Although we cover all the sport, I certainly follow all the teams. So anyway, with New England, I thought it was interesting. Bill Belichick on Monday announced he'd be back for a 24th year. Not that there was a lot of doubt. I'll get to your comment there in a second, as soon as I finish this quick story, Scott. He announced on Monday that he'd be back for his 24th season, even before he had his meeting this week with Bob Kraft about the rest of the going forward. And I don't think there was any doubt he was coming back. But listen, Bill Belichick's 71 years old, and I think there's going to come a time where Bob Kraft asks him to give up one of his roles, either the front office or the coaching, and I think if he had to, it would be the coaching staff. But during that meeting, and I'm sure this was going to happen anyway, Bob Kraft made it clear that he was embarrassed by this season. He sent out letters to season ticket holders saying as much. And changes had to be made. And I don't think this isn't like I said with Brett Boone a few years ago, this isn't him giving Bill an ultimatum, it's you or them, which it was for Brett Boone a couple of years ago. We already knew they were going to be making some changes. Matt Patricia is not going to be calling the plays next year. Joe Judge is not going to be the quarterback coach. I think it's very likely that Bill O'Brien will be back as the offensive coordinator. And there's also talk of Cliff Kingsbury being the offensive coordinator. And I would love to see both of them brought in, because I think really Mac Jones would benefit greatly from having a guy like Kingsbury be his quarterback coach. Now, I don't know if he would want to have that, that role. I can see Kingsbury being an offensive coordinator off of being a head coach. Whether he wants to be a quarterback coach, that's a different story. But you're going to see some changes. And another note on the Patriots before I move on from them. Gerard Mayo, they're having some conversations with. He's got some offers. He's had offers, or not offers. He's interviewed for head coaching jobs. He's going to have offers this year, if not for head coach, at least to be a defensive coordinator somewhere. He does not have that title with the Patriots. He does share kind of the duties with Stevie Belichick. He does a lot of the game planning. He performs a lot of the role that defensive coordinators do. So they're having some conversations with him. Whether he'll get that title is debatable. But I will tell you that there is a lot of rumors going on that there may be just some discussion with Gerard Mayo that he could be part of the succession plan when Bill Belichick does decide to step away. So we'll see how that goes. Josh McDaniel was rumored to have that anointment, if you will, before he left for the Raiders. And I think if he continues to fail as a head coach elsewhere, now he failed with the Broncos, now he's failing with the Raiders, and he'll get one more year, I think, to turn it around. If he continues not to get it together, he's probably blown his chances of succeeding Bill Belichick as well. So you don't remember the game that originated the on to Cincinnati? It was the year could have been, I want to say it was 2015 or 16, probably 15, maybe 14. No, maybe it's 2014. Patriots had drafted Jimmy G as a succession plan to Brady because, he was getting to be old. He was 37 at the time. Anyway, they played a horrible game in Kansas City, got beat, I don't know, 46-14, but Tom Brady actually got pulled out of the game. Jimmy G went in, led a couple touchdown scores. The press automatically wanted to have a quarterback controversy. They asked Belichick after the game, are you going to reevaluate the quarterback situation? Remember, this is, 6 years before Brady left. And he just rolled his eyes and kind of went, what the, and said, we're on to Cincinnati. And that's how he answered every single question the rest of that press conference. The players picked up on it during the week, and every time they were asked a question, they said, we're on to Cincinnati. And they won the Super Bowl that year, beating Seattle in the Super Bowl. Just an FYI. Yes, good. See, I just said that, Scott. Great minds think alike. They are, but again, the rumors are there. I don't have any hard evidence of this, but the rumors are that they're talking to him about being the head coach in waiting, which again, it was rumored that Josh McDaniel had that designation before he left. And I think he's probably blown his chance to have that happen. I think Josh just got tired of waiting for Bill to go. I don't think Bill's going anywhere anytime soon. It's not like this team. It's not like the wheels have fallen off this team. They need to make some changes. They need to get some playmakers on offense. They need to fix Mac Jones now. And then Mac Jones's biggest problem was the guy who's calling the plays. I love Matt Patricia, one of the great defensive minds in football. Literally a rocket scientist. He graduated from RPI right up the road from me here. That's Rensselaer Polytech Institute, I believe, if I'm right. Known for their hockey. But Bill Belichick's not going anywhere. Bill Belichick badly wants to win a Super Bowl without number 12. And I think the fact that Tommy won one and he didn't is only solidified Belichick's resolve to win a Super Bowl without Tommy before he retires. Scott lives in New England. Sweet. I wouldn't doubt it. Listen, Gerard Mayo is a really good coach, well respected by the players, well respected within the organization, well respected by Bob Kraft, as you say here, Scott. I don't know if you're a Patriot fan or not. It sounds like you might be a New York fan. Not sure. But that's fine. And Bob Kraft, by the way, great owner. Of all the owners in the NFL, Bob Kraft's a fan first. And Bob Kraft, there's a lot of players that he falls in love with. Tom Brady, is certainly one of them. Gerard Mayo is another one. And I do think that Mayo, and again, to do this, though, I really think they're going to have to make him the defensive coordinator. You know, I'm always getting asked questions all the time. Do I think Stevie Belichick is going to be the successor to Bill Belichick? Is that the plan? That's not the plan. Steve Belichick's got a better chance of managing the Yankees than he does of coaching the Patriots. It's not a good combination there, Scotty. I don't know if I'm ready to accept that answer. One team. Plus, you got to pick the Giants. Oh, my God. Then you tell me what you think of Daniel Jones before I move on from football. Give me your assessment of Daniel Jones now in his 5th year. I've said this, Scott, and I don't know if you've heard me, so I'm not going to be looking at you what you're typing. I've said for a long time, Giant fans are holding it against Daniel Jones because he was picked 6 in the draft. If Daniel Jones had been picked in the second round, middle of the second round by the Giants, New York fans would be ecstatic with the progress that he's made. They'd be ecstatic with the season that he had here and the way he's grown into a leader role on this team. He played good football. Takes better care of football. He turned the ball over 6 times this year. He used to turn the ball over 6 times in a game. Daniel Jones, I think it's going to be interesting, as we just talked about earlier. They better not sleep on Daniel Jones. He might be playing, just walking to the next locker room. I do think he's staying with the Giants as well. I think there's very little chance to let him walk away unless the money gets ridiculous. You believe he's grown into a leader, and they both done a great job, by the way. And this is listen, again, they hold this against him. He has had anybody like Daboll and his staff to help him grow and mature as a player. And he has gotten better. He didn't play horrendous last year. I know he got hurt. But he didn't play horrendous last year. So he's made strides every single year. And he is a guy who can, we'll find out whether he can win a playoff game here this weekend. But I think he's a guy that you better watch out. He gets some, he's done this, excuse my stammering again. He's done this all without any weapons this year to throw the ball to. Saquon Barkley's a tremendous weapon. And I hate the Giants. Hate the Giants with a passion. Sorry, Scott. I spend all this time defending him. Yeah, at least top 12. I mean, geez, the quarterback position is in such disarray. There's 14 or 15 bad quarterbacks playing right now. I mean, how many quarterbacks? Let me do this quick for you Giant fans. How many? I'll count the quarterbacks. Let's see where we can put them, Scott. All right. Josh Allen's better. Dolphins with Tua's uncertainty and inconsistency this year. I'm not going to say him. I can't say Mac Jones is better. The Jets certainly don't have a better quarterback. Joe Burrow's definitely better. Lamar Jackson, definitely better. Steelers, no. Browns, I'm not even going to say Deshaun Watson's better than him. I'm just not. Lawrence is not better than him yet. Tannehill's not better than him yet. Colts don't have a quarterback better than him. The Texans don't have a quarterback better than him. Definitely Mahomes. Probably Herbert. David Carr, who's moving on from the Raiders? No. Russell Wilson, no longer better than Daniel Jones. Hurts, yes. Zach, listen, I'm not going to tell you Zach Prescott is better because I think Daniel Jones now manages the game and leads his team better than Dak Prescott. No. Commanders, no. Kirk Cousins, no. Goff, no. Aaron Rodgers, it's over. No. Tom Brady, yes. Sorry. Panthers, no. Saints, no. Falcons, no. Brock Purdy, no. Geno Smith, great year this year. Is Matthew Stafford healthy? I'll give it to you, I guess. Kyler Murray? No. That's 8. That's right now I've got him 9 or 10. I've got him in the top 10, Scott. I'm going through this list with the Mad New Yorker next week. We do a show, and called Are You Serious on Friday mornings, and he hates him. He's a New York fan. He hates him. I should hate him. I spend my time defending him. Man, oh man. That's about right, I think, right? The guys I named. I might even move ahead a couple of those guys. Anyway, let's move on. Let's jump to the NBA, see what's been going on. Since we last spoke, the Nets continue their winning ways. They lost the other night. They got creamed by they got creamed by the Celtics last night. Well, not creamed. They got beat by 11. I don't think Durant played, right? Durant's banged up. We said all along this team, and I'm surprised what they've done. Jack Vaughn's done a great job since he became the head coach. But we said all along this team's not deep. Kyrie's played well. I'm tired of Kyrie. I just wish he'd go away, take his car, drive off the end of the flat earth that he's worried about. So Durant didn't play. They need Simmons to step it up. Simmons had 13 assists last night, 2 steals, no points. 3 shots he took. 3 shots he took in 26 minutes. You got a nice game out of Harris. This team has been a surprise since they started season 1-5. Don't forget. And they're now what I say they were? They're in second place in the East now, 27-14. So they stepped back a little this week from where they were last week, but Ben Simmons, shoot the basketball, man. I mean, it's awesome that you're out there distributing and contributing that way, but the Nets need a third guy. And Kyrie's played some good basketball. You know, we all know how I feel about Kyrie. And even if he stays on a straight and narrow all year, continues to play great basketball the way that he is, I'm still not signing him to a long-term deal because he's probably going to get a max deal at the end, and I'm not giving it to him because it's only a matter of time before he flakes out again. You know, he needs a week off because he's distraught over January 6th. He's a nut job. And I don't make light of, mental illness is a real problem in this country, and I get it. But this guy needs some help, and get it to him soon. And Kyrie, I will drive. I still will keep my. And I don't know, because I'll say this because we could have some new people in our audience today. I will continue to offer you my services, Kyrie. We'll get in my car. I'll supply all of the gasoline. We will drive as far as you want in one direction. And you know what won't happen? We won't drive off the end of the earth. Freaking crazy. Ugh. Man. How about the Knicks? RJ Barrett trying to get back in the lineup. They did win. They've won. They've continued to play well. They've won 5 of their last 6. They beat the Pacers here most recently, 119-113. Lost to the Bucks in a close game. So still playing some good basketball. Again, I think the Knicks are back in 6th place, and I think finishing 6th, winning a series in the playoffs would be very good for the Knicks. I will tell you that I keep getting upset whenever I see the Cavaliers winning, and they're only 4 games behind the Cavs now, and Donovan Mitchell going off right and left. Now, there are rumors that the Knicks are zeroing in on a deal for Devin Booker, which, again, would be a game changer if they were able to get him here. Now, again, I don't want to give up R.J. Barrett in these deals. I do think the Knicks have enough to get Devin Booker without trading R.J. Barrett. So we'll see what happens there. But they played pretty well. We've reached the half point of the season. I think the team's played pretty good basketball overall. You know, you look at, if we're going to give some guys some grades here, and maybe we'll do the same for the Nets real quick. Julius Randle has returned to his all-star form of 2 years ago. Hello, Anthony. How are you, buddy? Good to have you with us. Did the Mets sign Drew Smith? Let me check it out for you. I'm going to go back to the Nets too. So, Drew Smith news. They are signing him. I guess it's not done yet. It's still a rumor, but it looks like they're going to sign him. Yeah, there's nothing official here, but it is possible. Now, that would help the depth on this net team, as I said, Anthony. The one thing that's lacking on that net team is depth. I'll get back to the Nets in a second. Let me finish up my grades for the Knicks. Julius Randle's returned to his form from 2 years ago. His attitude is back to where it was. His play on the court is back to where it was. I love this kid. He's an A+. To me, he's had an A+ season so far. Quentin Grimes, A-. Tibbs was reluctant to give this kid a spot in the rotation. I don't know why, man. He is a shutdown defensive guard. I think he will develop his offensive game even more. I think he's contributing about 12 points a game right now. But I think he'll continue to get better. And maybe he changes my opinion on moving Barrett for a really, really big name. But I think Barrett, too, is I'll give Grimes an A. I'll give Barrett a B+. Been injured more recently, but after a slow start, he's really come around. Mitchell Robinson, who I'm not a big fan of because his attitude, sometimes he wants to shoot the basketball when he's there for defense and rebounding. I'll give him a B because he's really stepped up. Some guys who haven't played a lot, like McBride and Sims, give them Bs too, maybe incompletes. Derrick Rose is going to get a C. It's not his fault to get pulled from the rotation. Derrick Rose's best days are behind him. Obi Toppin, I would have given a B until about a month ago. His play slipped a little bit. Then he got hurt. Isaiah Hartenstein, they picked up from the Clippers in the offseason. C+. He's been kind of up and down. Fournier, D. Cam Reddish, D. Tom Thibodeau, I'll give a B+. I think he's done a really, really good job this year. There were times early in the season where it looked like things might slip away a little bit. And I think he did a really, really good job of righting that ship, if you will. So anyway, I think the Knicks are headed towards a playoff berth. I think that's 6. Listen, they could finish anywhere, I think, from 4th to 6th. And I suppose if things went bad, they end up in the play-in round, which I hope they do not. But I do think that this team is possibly making strides to get back to where they were 2 years ago, and I think they will continue to improve. And I'm very happy to be able to say that. On the baseball side, we talk about the Yankees and Mets. I talked about them quite a bit on the MLB update this week. So if you want to take a quick look at that, you certainly can. some of the biggest news. Both teams had announced they were not interested in pursuing Trevor Bauer. Thank you very much. The Mets lose out on Andrew McCutchen. They were hoping to get him to be their fourth outfielder, and he will be now back with the Pittsburgh Pirates. Steelers, I almost said. Who he started his career with. He's not, he's a shell of the player that he used to be, but I think he could have helped this Met team, as I said on the Major League Baseball update. Also, probably the biggest news that I probably shouldn't have skipped over, Carlos Correa officially doesn't decline the Mets offer. I guess he does, because the Mets adjusted their offer. It was 12 years, $315 million until the physical is taken. They did reduce their offer to 6 years, $157 million guaranteed, even with the scary report they got about potentially down the road. The issues that they're worried about are like 6 years down the road. But the Twins came back 6 years, $200 million. That's where he is. He's back with the Twins. They also signed Eric Hinsky to be the assistant hitting coach this week. They have been pursuing Brian Reynolds, as the Yankees have from the Pirates. And the Pirates are just fooling themselves. The Pirates want to move Brian Reynolds, but they seem to think they can get the same kind of package that the Nationals got for Juan Soto. Brian Reynolds is a nice player. He's not Juan Soto. I would love to see Brian Reynolds in a Yankee uniform. Not likely to happen, though, right? What's going on in the Yankees world we should talk about? Talked about the Trevor Bauer thing. They did lose. The Mets did sign away LaCastra from the Yankees. Speedy outfielder. LaCastro, I guess, is probably better pronunciation. He's a nice player. I don't think he's the kind of guy who's going to put you over the top. But I do think that he's a nice player and a nice bench player to have, and the Mets will probably make good use of him as well. Other than that, there is only new. I guess the only other news is Chapman, Aroldis Chapman, who the Yankees have let go, rightfully so. Looked like he was heading to the Dodgers. Now it looks like he won't be heading to the Dodgers. He may have pitched his last game. Just not a big fan of Chapman. Never was. So again, you guys feel free to bring up any topics that you want here. I'll jump around too, Anthony. If you want to go back to football or baseball, basketball, certainly feel free to jump in and throw something at me, New York sports wise. We'll be happy to talk about it. Same with you, obviously, Scott, and anybody else who may be still with us. We certainly love the comments. Just to take a quick look at NCAA men's basketball and the local teams, so pretty much New York City, New Jersey. We go out to UConn, upstate New York. We kind of cover and just give you some quick updates on some of those guys. We have anybody in the latest rankings? UConn slips. Former Amsterdam star Andre Jackson, by the way, is playing really well with UConn. He's a local kid up here. He's played very well with UConn, and one of the better players in the Big East. But UConn slips to number 6. They fall to 15-2. Danny Hurley's doing a great job there, though, and he continues to do very well. And that is the only local team in the top 25, the AP top 25 anyway. Any other teams get any votes? Rutgers playing out of the Big Ten with 13 votes. And that is really it. So we're not doing all that well. We'll go through some of the leagues where these teams play, and we'll see how we'll start with the I guess we'll start with the ACC because we've got Syracuse playing there, Boston College, if you want to consider them in the metro area, I guess. Syracuse has righted the ship a little bit. Jim Boeheim's just starting to lose his edge with Syracuse, I think, from a recruiting standpoint. Joe Girard, another local product here from Glens Falls, about an hour north of where I am. He's the lead guy there. He's a nice player, but he shouldn't be the lead guy on a major conference Division I NCAA basketball team. But Syracuse is 4-2 in the watered down ACC. The ACC is not as strong as it used to be. 4-2, 11-6 overall. Now that's better than where they got started. They played much better since they lost to Loyola. I'm sorry, not Loyola. Colgate for the second year in a row at home. Can't be doing that, Syracuse. Nobody plays there. Big East. Big East is resurgent. We talked about this last year. It's a really good league. Not what it was in the 80s and the 90s, obviously, early 2000s even. The realignment of football in 2012 really hurt the Big East. And but at the top, it's a really good league. Providence has been playing great. They've won 9 in a row now. They're ranked 19th. Xavier, Marquette, and UConn all in the top 20. UConn's 4th in the league, interesting enough, only 4-3, as I said, 15-3 overall, 6th in the country, only 4th in the Big East. Seton Hall's been a bit up and down over their new coach, under their new coach, Shasheen Holloway, who led St. Peter's, as we know, to the Elite Eight last year in the NCAA tournament. They're probably trending in the right direction, though. They're 3-4 in the league, 10-8 overall. Probably not going to get it done this year, but they will eventually. St. John's out of the New York City, really a big disappointment under Mike Anderson. 12-6 overall, 2-5 though in the league. They got away, I think, 0-4. Not a great start at all for them. And New York City contingent in the Big East has not played well overall. We got to go to the Big Ten because you do have Rutgers out of the New Jersey area playing very well. Piscataway, New Jersey, they play, I believe. Probably not too far from being ranked. 12-5 overall, 4-2 in the league. Rutgers has had, last year was a bit of a disappointment, really up and down. 2 years ago, a really good team. Probably could have made a run in the tournament, got knocked out in the second round on some controversial happenings in that game. And the year they were really good was the year the tournament got canceled, 2020, the COVID season. Rutgers, I think, is going to be a player here in the Big Ten this year. I think they got a chance to win this league, maybe win the conference championship in the tournament, and get that automatic bye to the NCAA tournament. I think they're that good. Let's find out as we go forward. We got time to check a couple other New York area teams. As I continue the Ivy League, we have Columbia. 6-12. We aren't going to talk too much about Columbia. The Metro Athletic League, Iona, led by Rick Pitino, former national champion at Louisville, which was abdicated, I believe, or vacated, I should say, in Kentucky. He leads Iona and has done a great job there, getting them into the NCAA tournament the last couple of years and being competitive. But he's getting pushed by Siena, who's up here in upstate New York again, just up the road from us here outside of Albany. Played very, very well, and they're going to have Iona at home pretty soon. They've won 6 in a row. Iona is a class of the MAC, or considered the class of the MAC, and we'll see whether they can continue to play well. St. Peter's, by the way, who did make that great run in the NCAA tournament, likely won't be getting there again unless they get on some crazy run in March in the conference tournament. They're only 2-5 in the league, 7-9 overall, losing Shasheen Holloway and all their star players. He took one of those kids with him to Seton Hall. Butch Lee's kid, the point guard, left to go to, Division II school, I think. So very interesting developments there, right? Who else? That might be all that I really want to cover with the New York teams. In the NEAC, not the NEAC, God, where they play. Army, by the way, 10-8, 4-1 in the Patriot League. Colgate, who I mentioned, who beat Syracuse, is 5-0 in the Patriot League, 11-7 overall. And I think that's all we really need to chat about as far as college basketball goes today. I do want to keep you guys updated. I know when Dan and I do the show, we often don't get to the college basketball because we're covering so much other stuff. And in football, there's not a lot to talk about with New York sports because, well, you kind of had a good year this year under Jim Mora. But Rutgers has been bad, and Greg Schiano coming back has not helped them. And that's really all the football that there is up here. Syracuse got off 6-0, finished 6-7. Geno Babers probably saved his job, but not a great showing. Got to do better than that. I'm laughing. Got a message I got from work. Sorry. So that's it, guys. I appreciate you guys coming in. Anthony and Scott, thanks for participating today. We're live on Facebook and YouTube with Let's Talk Sports and on TGI Sports Talk Network. Anyway, Keith Engle here. You guys have a great weekend. I've lost my train of thought now because I got made to laugh, but I've enjoyed this hour with you. I continue to enjoy it. We continue to hope our cohort, Dan Harris, who's a leader here at Let's Talk Sports and the leader of this show, really. I'm just, the second banana helping Dan along, but I'm happy to fill in and do the solo act until Dan is well enough to do it. So hopefully Dan is getting on the mend. And guys, send him a quick note because I'm sure that he would appreciate it. Now that I've found my I'm out of here. Have a great weekend. Keith Engle for Let's Talk New York Sports.